Hello students, welcome to the course Network Theory. So today we will start with module 2, that is about network theorems. So in the previous module, so we have extensively go through the basic concepts of electric network, and we also seen the different methods like source transformations, star delta transformations, and mesh analysis and node analysis in detail. Okay, so with this basic knowledge, so we'll continue our discussion to network theorems. So what is network theorem? Okay, so this is the syllabus what you have for network theorems. So you'll have 5 theorems here: superposition theorem, Millman's current and voltage theorem, Thevenin's theorem, Norton's theorem, and maximum power transfer theorem. Okay, so many electric circuits are complex, but it is an engineer's goal to reduce their complexity to analyze them easily. Okay, so that's why this subject is there, right? So network theory or network analysis. Okay, so that means you should be very bold in network, or it is also called as electric circuits. And these complex circuits you need to reduce them. Okay, so when you are reducing them, so what is available to you is certain laws and theorems, right? So what we have seen in the first part is some of the Kirchhoff's laws we have used, and Ohm's law we have used wherever necessary. These are the very basic laws which are used to solve electrical networks. Okay, so without these laws, these networks are not at all said valid. Okay, so the validity of the networks based on this law itself. Okay, so then in the second part, we have seen Maxwell's loop current analysis, that is mesh analysis, and node voltage analysis we have gone through in detail, right? Are the other two methods which are more easier methods to solve electrical networks. Okay, so which you could not solve using Kirchhoff's law, Ohm's law alone. So you went through loop analysis and node analysis. Through that you can find the branch currents or some node voltages. Clear? So now there are certain situations or certain complex networks. Okay, in a large and complex network, these methods tends to become laborious. Definitely these methods will work, but they takes more time. Okay, and they are time consuming. Okay, so in many cases it is advantageous to use special techniques to reduce the quantum of labor involved in circuit solution. We term such techniques as network theorems. Okay, so as you take the analogy of a transport now. Okay, so if you have to travel some 500 kilometers, what and all options you have? The very basic option, you can walk, right? So very basic. So if you are having 100 meters, so that only concept, no, we are going 100 meters walk. 1 kilometer you can take a cycle. It is more than 1 kilometer or less than some 50 kilometer or 25 kilometer, based on your ability, you take a bike. After that you will take a car, right? So if it is more than 500 kilometer, it may be you will take a journey of train or you take a flight, right? So it will change, right? So as the complexity or distance increases in transportation, so your method or the tool which you use to travel also changes. The same way in the networks. Okay, so we started off with very basic concepts, very simple networks. For that you applied the Ohm's law in a very beginning, right? So slowly you understood KCL and KVL. Then that you applied for node analysis and mesh analysis. So now there are still big networks are there, right? So in that case alone, these technique will work definitely. Okay, you can go to 500 kilometer with walk only, but how much time it will take, how much energy it will take, how much days it will take, right? So the same way, we require a quick solution. Okay, so for that, so these network theorems will help you. Okay, so hope you have understood. So why network theorems you need to study now. Okay, so in this module we'll introduce new techniques to strengthen our armory to solve complicated networks. Okay, so that is what our goal now, to solve complicated networks with the help of these theorems. And also these new techniques in many cases do provide insight into the circuit's operation that cannot be obtained from mesh or nodal analysis. Okay, so inside what will happen, okay, each terminal what will happen, so this may not be understood in mesh and node. So mesh and node just a technique, just you have applied to find voltage or current, but circuits operation, okay, so that will be understood here. That is one advantage. Most often we are interested only in the detailed performance of an isolated portion of a complex circuit. If we can model the remainder of the circuit with a simple equivalent network, then our task of analysis gets greatly reduced and simplified. Okay, so just we try to do what we'll do. If it is a very complex network, we try to bring it to a isolated portion of that complex circuit. So we'll try to separate it, okay, and then we'll see its performance, okay, or we will require whatever we require, so that we try to do. Okay, so there are different theorems are available in electric circuit theory. So some of the important only they have mentioned in syllabus, only that we'll go through. Other than that, there are many theorems. Okay, if you refer the old books and all, so you'll see many theorems. Okay, so some of the important network theorems used day to day, okay, maybe used in electric circuits are superposition theorem. Okay, so first one is superposition theorem. Then we have Millman's theorem, then Thevenin's theorem, Norton's theorem, fourth one, and then maximum power transfer theorem. So I may be mentioned in some of the videos in the previous module. So these two are very important theorems, right? Thevenin's and Norton's, right? So that also we are going to study. And there is one more theorem I have mentioned this. This is written because it is my old syllabus, that is 17 scheme, right? You are learning the 18 scheme now. So 17 scheme. So this theorem was there. Okay, reciprocity theorem, like that Telejan's theorem, many are there. Okay, so that they have removed now in this syllabus. So that's why only 5 we are studying. So this is the superposition, Millman's, Thevenin, Norton's, and maximum power transfer theorem. Okay, so what we going to study in this theorem is, first part we will learn about its statement and proof. Okay, so statement and proof, this is a theory question they will ask. So that's why statement and proof we will learn about each of the theorems. And in the second part we will solve problems or applications of these theorems to networks. Okay, so that is what we are going to do in this module. Okay, so first we will take up the superposition theorem, its concept, statement, and then proof. Okay, and then we'll see its examples. Like that we'll continue. Okay, so superposition theorem, the principle of superposition. Okay, so this maybe if you use the dictionary you will understand what is superposition means. Superpose, right, is applicable only for linear systems. Okay, so first thing, superposition principle applies to only linear. That's why we are studying only linear circuit analysis. I told you, right, when I say it's a due Coursera as a network, right, course, right, it was a linear DC analysis or linear AC analysis, something name was there, right, which is nothing but we are learning the linear systems, not non-linear. And also time invariant, linear time invariant systems, also bilateral systems, correct. So that is what, so this superposition applies to this linear only. And the concept of superposition can be explained mathematically by the cause and effect principle. What is this cause and effect? So we'll say, no, for every deed there is a equal and opposite response, right? So if you do something bad, so something bad will happen to you. If you something feel good about others, so you'll get good about that. So this is about a general. So in terms of Newton's third law, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, right? That is also cause and effect. The same way, so this superposition principle is about. So here cause and effect will term in terms of excitation and response. That means you have an electric circuit. If you give certain excitation, that means some or certain voltage source you connect, so certain response in terms of current or voltage you will get in the load, right? So that is what about excitation and response. So this we will study as a part. Okay, so superpose separately. So we'll have many, 2 or 3 sources are there in mains. So we'll take one source at a time and we'll study its response. Then we'll take second source, then we'll take third source, like that, and then we'll superpose it. All the answers will superpose it. So that is how we'll study the complex circuit. Okay, that is the basic principle here. So we'll see, and you do the proof and example, you will come to know. Okay, more. So you may not be 100% you will understand when I say the theory part of that. Okay, so that's why be patient. Okay, the basic principle of superposition states that if the effect produced in a system is directly proportional to the cause, if effect is proportional to the cause, then the overall effect produced in the system due to a number of causes acting jointly can be determined by superposing the effects, adding the effects of each source acting separately. Okay, so for example, in an electric network, so you have different source like V1, V2, V3. Okay, and they are connected together, okay, in some topology. So when you say it is proportional to effect, cause is proportional, effect is proportional to cause, then number of causes, that means number of excitations acting jointly, so their joint effect will also have, can be adding effects of each source acting separately. That means corresponding effect whatever is happening. Okay, so this also we can merge it. Okay, so that is the idea here. So we'll try to understand this with the statement. Okay. So see here one analogy we have. Mathematically we are telling this: if sources I1 and I2 are applied to a linear network with zero initial conditions. Okay, so see here statement. So in this module, I am mentioning about zero initial conditions. That means initially there is no charge in it. So current is nothing but proportional to charge, right? There is no charge, so nil. Because next module, when I will start about initial conditions. That means I will consider the initial conditions. It is not zero. Okay. But at this module and previous module, we have taken zero initial conditions. Careful. Okay. If this is a source I1 which will produce the response, so this is the excitation and this is the response, it will produce V1. Similarly, if you have another source, it will produce V2 response. Then these excitation together, if they work jointly, okay, that means I1 plus I2, so then we are able to produce the output also proportional to V1 plus V2. It's joint performance. Okay, so this is the law of superposition. Okay, the quantity to the left of the arrow indicates the excitation and to the right it is system response. Okay, so with this is a just a concept I am explaining here. So now we'll see the theorem. Okay, how it is defined. Okay, so thus we can state that a device if excited by a current I1 will produce response V1. Similarly, an excitation I2 will cause a response V2. Then if we use an excitation I1 plus I2, we will find a response. So that the same statement I am trying to explain here, V1 plus V2. The principle of superposition has the ability to reduce a complicated problem to several easier problems, each containing only a single independent source. Okay, so the multiple sources are there and there is a multiple effect, so you could not analyze it straight away. Even the node analysis or mesh analysis will give the result, but it will take more time. Okay, so in that case, so this will help you in reducing the thing. Okay, as an independent single source. Okay, so this is the statement. So this is what they will ask: state and prove superposition theorem. Okay, so what is the statement? In any linear circuit, so initially I told you superposition applies only to linear system. That's why it is first line only written. In a linear circuit containing multiple independent sources, means what? Excitations, the current or voltage at any point in the network, current or voltage at any point in the network means it is a response. Okay, may be calculated as algebraic sum of the individual contributions of each source acting alone. Okay, so in any linear circuit containing multiple independent sources, the current or voltage at any point in the network may be calculated as algebraic sum of individual contribution of each source acting alone. I told you here multiple sources are there. So if you consider each source acting at a time, okay, so then we can have its responses and that will take a algebraic sum. So that way we can calculate. Okay, so just to elaborate this statement, okay, this statement just try to, so this is in a compressed manner. Okay, so to understand in better way, so how to do that? So when determining the contribution due to a particular independent source, we disable all the remaining independent sources. Okay. So when there are multiple sources, so you are looking at one source at a time. So we need to disable, right? How to disable that? So that is all the remaining ideal voltage sources. So voltage sources you need to disable means what? You have to make its voltage zero. So voltage zero means what? We have studied in the basic concepts: open circuit, short circuit. Okay, so zero means replacing them with short circuits. Voltage zero means it is a short circuits. And all remaining ideal current sources, so ideal current sources also, if current source is there, will make zero. So current source 0 means what? Open circuit, right? Replacing them with open circuits. Okay, so that is what this disabling is about. Okay, so that's why we have taken these concepts earlier, because these terms when I get it here, so you may not understand, right? That's why if you have not gone through the basic concepts, it is very foundational. Okay, because also due to lockdown you have not gone through the basic electrical engineering course also not properly. That's why that is taken in detail. Okay, also it is important to note that if a dependent source is present, it must remain active during the process of superposition. Okay, so this is about independent sources. So in case dependent source is there, so you do it as it is. Okay, don't consider it separately. Okay, so it must remain active. You should not make it short circuit or something like that, because it is a dependent. Okay, during the process of superposition. This is in the case of superposition theorem. Okay, other theorems it may change. Okay, so that's what you need to remember here. So now we'll try to prove this. Okay, with an simple linear network. So this proof. Okay, let us consider any linear network containing bilateral linear impedances and energy sources. The current flowing in any elements is the vector sum of the currents that are separately caused to flow in that element by each energy source. So for a general, I will take it as a impedance, because impedance means their resistor, inductor, capacitor all will come, right? So if I consider separately for resistor, then inductor, capacitor, the situation may change, right? Instead, if I write it as impedance and energy source, so that it can be applied to AC networks as well as DC networks. Okay, so that's why this is a general one, and this equation is very dry. Okay, so you may not understand in the single setting. So what you need to do is, along with me, you need to write down. Okay, so simply write down and then see my explanation. Okay, or explanation you see once, and then again you write down it and then work out on it. Okay, so what is the concept I am using here is, so this is the network I'm going to show you. So this is the figure A here. Okay, so this is the figure A, that is the initial network. This is a complex network, I say. Okay, so this also I have given simple network only to understand this concept. So I have two voltage sources, E1 here and E2 here, and there are two meshes, right? So Z1, Z2, Z3, three impedances I have. So I am going through the mesh analysis maybe. Okay, so that's why I have applied I1 and I2. I call this as I1, I2. So now what I will do, as you have learned mesh analysis, so I will apply the mesh analysis to node 1 and 2. I will write the equations. Okay, so then I will apply the superposition theorem. What is superposition theorem? I have to take the sources alone. That means I will take E1 active in the first case and I will E2 deactivate. That means I will make this as short circuit here. So this is 0, and I will compute that. Equivalent figure is shown here as figure B. Okay, E1 is active and E2 is short circuited here. Okay, and now I will try to write the equation for this and the solution also. Here also I will do the solution I1 and I2, and then in the solution, so we'll write the two equations. If you know two equations are there, how to solve, right? So we'll express the I2 in terms of I1 and substitute in that equation back. So you'll get some solution. That means formula. We are deriving the formula for I1 and I2 and we are writing it as an equations. Then in this equation solution we got no. So just what we will try to do, E2 will make it 0 in this solution. So then we'll get the equations of this circuit. Okay, again we will not do. So this only will take much time. Okay, getting the I1, I2 solution. Then we'll substitute E2 is 0 and we'll do the computation. We'll get some equation that I call it as I1 dash and I2 dash. I will denote it as I1 dash, I2 dash. Second case, what I will do, E2 I will make active and E1 inactive. That means this is a short circuit. Okay, so that is what shown over here. So names are not written here. Z1, Z2, Z3. Write down that. Okay, so Z1, Z2, Z3, and the two mesh currents I will name it as now double dash. I1 double dash, I2 double dash. Here I have used the convention. Okay, so mixed convention I have used. No issues with that. Okay, so here I have taken clockwise, here I have taken anti-clockwise. So no issues with that. So same thing you should follow for three networks. Okay, so in this case I will substitute E1 equal to 0, whatever you got solution here, and we'll write the equation. And finally we'll compare the equations of I1 of this network, I1 dash of this network, and I2 dash of I1 double dash of this network. What I will get result is I1 is equal to I1 dash plus I1 double dash. Okay, and also I2 is nothing but it is a different current. So which is also a I2 dash plus I2 double dash combination. So that means superposition theorem is proved. So that is what we are going to do in this superposition. Okay, so just we'll go through now figure A. Okay, so just focus on the figure A now. So this is the figure A. So E1, Z1, Z2, Z3, E1, E2. So recall what you have done in mesh analysis. Okay, so I may not take much time here to explain. Okay, so you are, if you have done workout in the first module, so it is easy. Otherwise you may not continue. Okay, so that's why do the basic work. So figure A will apply the KVL to mesh 1 and 2. Okay, so what I got is E1 is equal to I1. So I have directly written the simplified one. Okay, because you know how do you got this. Okay, so you write the KVL and then simplify it in terms of I1 and I2. So this is what the expression you are going to get. E1 equal to I1 Z1 plus Z3 I2 Z3. Okay, because here minus sign is not there. Why? Because I have taken one is clockwise and another is anti-clockwise. No, that is the effect. Okay, in case I have taken both clockwise, this is mutual, right? I2 is mutual, minus should come. Okay, this is the change will happen. Similarly for second mesh, E2 is equal to I1 Z3 plus I2 Z2 plus Z3. So this is the self, right? This is the mutual. Again here minus sign is not there because we have followed the opposite convention. Okay, so that is why. So this you make it as equation number 1 and 2. When you are proving, so you need to write the important equations with names, right? So 1 and 2 you make. Now we try to solve this equation. You got two equations according to mathematics. If you have two equations, okay, so we can solve the two unknowns. Okay, two unknowns are I1 and I2. So we'll try to solve. That means we try to bring a formula for I1 and I2. Okay, so what I do is in the first equation, both 1 and 2, I will rearrange. I will take the first equation, I will take I2 terms left side. That's why E1 minus I2 Z3 is equal to I1 Z1 plus Z3 I will get. Okay, then here I will take I1 Z3 that side. So E2 minus I1 Z3 is equal to I2 Z2 plus Z3. Okay, so now we'll focus on only equation 3. Okay, so from equation 3 or equation 4. So from equation 4, we'll try to write I2. Okay, so I2 is nothing but what? This equation divided by this term, Z2 plus Z3, right? So I got some I2 and this value of I2 I will substitute in this equation. Okay, that is what the formula I will get for I1. So then I will write the equation for in terms of I1. Similarly, I can do the another way. So I will write this equation in terms of I1. So okay, E1 minus I2 Z3 by Z1 plus Z3, and then I will substitute in this equation as I1. So this is how we will get the two equations now, equation 5 and 6 maybe. Okay, that is the result. So you'll go through that part now. So you continue with the notes. Okay, from equation 4 I2, that's what I explained. E2 minus I1 Z3, sorry, just a minute. Okay, E2 minus I1 Z3 by Z2 plus Z3. You can simplify this or else you can omit this. Okay, so here one more equation I have named it. So this is not necessary. Okay, this simplification is not necessary. Again, it will change the burden. Okay, so you can club this and you substitute here. Okay, substitute that in equation 3. So E1 minus E2 minus I1 Z3. If you have taken like this, so it will be one line. So then this is not necessary, right? E2 minus I1 Z3 by Z2 plus Z3 into Z3, because here Z3 is there in that equation, right? Equation 3, Z3 is there, equal to I1 Z1 plus Z3. So now we'll try to simplify this. So Z2 plus Z3 is there in denominator. So I will take LCM, then it will come numerator. Z2 plus Z3 into E1 minus, we'll multiply this into Z3, E2 into Z3 minus E2 Z3. So then minus minus plus symbol will come, and this I1 Z3 is there and Z3 is there. So I1 Z3 square will come equal to, here already I1 Z1 plus Z3 is there, into this denominator part I have taken numerator. Okay, that's what Z2 plus Z3 also coming over here. So now we will simplify this bracket terms. So Z2 plus Z3 even, this is I am keeping as it is because source coefficient, no, then e2 z3 plus I1 z3 square left side equal to this will split. Okay, z1 z2 z1 z3 z2 z3 and z3 z3 is there z3 square. So left side we will not do any changes, let it as it is. Okay, so here I will split these three I will combine z1 z2 z1 z3 z2 z3 and this I1 z3 square I will take it outside and this is cancelled out, right? Here also I1 z cube square is there, it is z3 square is there, cancelled out. So now you got the equation only in terms of I1, right? So there is no I2 terms in this equation, you have E1 E2 and I1 is there. So now write the I1. So I1 in terms of only impedances and E1 and E2. So you got the solution. So that's what I'm writing here. Therefore I1 is equal to, so here E1 part I will write first. So Z2 plus Z3 is the numerator, divided by this complete will come in the denominator. Okay, so Z1 Z2 plus Z2 Z3 plus Z1 Z3 E1. Actually one more step is there, you can write or omit. So here you bring it, so it will be together, then I am splitting this minus sign, but I have straight away writing, I hope you understand. Okay, into E1 minus, then what you have, minus E2 Z3, this is cancelled out, so minus Z3 by this again term Z1 Z2 Z2 Z3 plus Z1 Z3 into E2. So you got the I1 in terms of E1 and E2 and the impedances. So make it as equation number 6. So this is the very important equation for I1. So this is what I told you very first, I1 value. Okay, so similarly, in a similar way, we'll do the second part. So as we have written from equation 3, we'll write it for I1 and that we'll substitute in the equation 4. So you'll get I2 current. Okay, so that we'll do. So from equation 3, I1 is equal to E1 minus I2 Z3 by Z1 plus Z3. This was there. And equation 4, I have recalled here, E2 minus I1 Z3, I2 Z2 plus Z3. So now we'll substitute this equation 7 now in this equation 4. Okay, so what you will get, E2 minus I1 will substitute this E1 minus I2 Z3 by Z1 plus Z3 and Z3 I have written here equal to I2 Z2 plus Z3. Same as previous, so take the LCM, so it will E2 Z1 plus Z3, then here E1 minus Z3 E1 plus I2 Z3 whole square, then this Z1 plus Z3 will go to right side and you will simplify. Okay, the same answer you are going to get same way, a little bit change in terms of E1 E2 pattern coefficient. Okay, so this is what you see, Z1 plus Z3 E2 minus E1 Z3 I2 Z3 square. So I2 Z2 plus Z3 already there and this denominator term came it in the numerator here, Z1 plus Z3. So simplify now, this will keep as it is, E1 Z3, left side no changes, right side we will take the product Z1 Z2 Z2 Z3 Z3 Z1 Z1 3 square will come. Again we will take here straight away I have done. Okay, I2 Z3 square is there, I2 Z3 square is there, it will cancel out. Okay, again that term is written and so in simply 2 steps more. No, one time I have shown, that's why removed here and straight away I have written Z2 plus Z3 E2 minus E1 Z3 is equal to I2 remaining terms Z1 Z2 Z2 Z3 plus Z1 Z3. So now, so this equation completely of E1 E2 and impedances and I2, there is no I1 term here. So now you can write the equation for I2 and when you are writing this E1 term you write first. Okay, because it should match with the first sixth equation, right, whatever you have written. So that's why I2 is equal to E1 term is here, that's why I have written this coefficient minus Z3 by this term. Okay, this will come in the denominator, Z1 Z2 plus Z2 Z3 plus Z1 Z3 into E1 plus, so E2 term is here, Z1 plus Z3 by Z1 Z2 plus Z2 Z3 plus Z1 Z3 into E2 equal. This is the equation number 8. This is the value of I2 as I mentioned. This is the total value of the I2 when you do it mesh analysis. So what you have done, this is mesh analysis, so much of calculation, right? So now to remove this, we'll see, we'll apply the superposition theorem now. Okay, so that means I1 dash and I2 dash we will calculate now. For that we'll refer the figure B. So note down this figure 6 and 8. Okay, so these are important here. So see the figure Z1 Z2 Z3. Okay, I1 dash and E2 we have made 0. So that means what, I1 dash and I2 dash, what we have to do in equation 6 and 8, in equation 6 and 8 we'll make E2 is equal to 0. If you make E2 equal to 0, this complete term is 0. Okay, similarly in 8 E2 is 0 means this whole term is 0. Only you have the left side term. Okay, so that is what we'll just write down. Okay, so using superposition theorem now, making E2 inoperative as in figure B. So your equations will be, so now if you write just the equation for this, okay, what will happen? So same equation what you have written 1 and 2 will write with changes in current. Now we'll make I1 dash and I2 dash and E2 as 0. Okay, so that is the same equation. So solving this gives, again we need to do the same way solution. Okay, write I2 in terms of that, but not necessary because already you have the solution 6 and 8. So this is a proof. Just you substitute there, E2 is equal to 0, and whatever you will get, that you note it as I1 dash now. Okay, this is not complete I1 dash. Okay, only one part is there here, E1 operative. Okay, so that's why E1 is there only, E2 part is not there. Okay, so only that you have to write from equation 6 and 8, and these are the two new equations now, 6 and 10. Similar way, we'll refer the figure B now. That means we'll make E1 inoperative, and we'll make E1 0 and E2 as it is. Okay. So this is the figure you had in figure C. Okay. So we'll call the current as I1 double dash and I2 double dash. Okay. So you have already figure, just I am showing you. Now if you write the KVL equation, E1 inoperative as in figure C. So E1 part is 0, and currents I have changed now, I1 double dash and I2 double dash. This is the change. Okay. So E2 is as it is here, I1 double dash, I2 double dash, E1 is 0. So again, if you solve it in the same manner, it will take much time. Instead, what we will do, just E1 you will substitute 0. So when you substitute that, you will get the two new currents, I1 double dash and I2 double dash. Okay. So in the equation 6 and 8, you substitute E1 is equal to 0. So you'll get equation 11 and 12. So now which equations you need to compare now? So see here, this is the interesting thing. So that's how proof has come. Okay. So just observe here equation 6. So equation 6 is the I1 current, total current. Equation 8 is the total I2 current. And now equation 9 and 10, 9 is I1 dash and equation 11 is I1 double dash. If you see equation 6, 9 and 11, and similarly equation 8, 10 and 12, so you will get a conclusion. See here. Okay, so just you can compare whatever you have written so far. See the equation. Okay, equation 6, 9 and 11, this is proved. I1 total current is equal to, when you made E1 operative and when you made E2 operative, its response is a superposed. Okay, I1 dash plus I1 double dash. Similar way, equation 8, 10 and 12, if you do, I2 current is nothing but, total I2 current is nothing but, when you make E1 operative and E2 operative, its response, they are superposed. So this is how superposition theorem is proved. Okay, so in exam they will ask either one problem and another is a, so out of 5 theorem any proof they can ask, and out of 5 theorems any of the problems they can ask. That's why we need to go through both. Okay, each of the theorems proof you have to go, and also you have to go through the problems. Clear? So this is about the superposition theorem proof. So now we will see the just action plan when you are doing the problem. So what is the action plan we will follow? Okay, so just quickly. So in a circuit comprising of many independent sources, only one source is allowed to be active in the circuit. The rest are deactivated, as we have shown in the proof. Okay. To deactivate a voltage source, replace it with a short circuit, and to deactivate a current source, replace it with an open circuit. So in this example, we have seen voltage source. We will see in the problem current source also. Okay. So it will be open circuited. The response obtained by applying each source one at a time are then added algebraically to obtain a solution. That's what I1. The final conclusion is I1 is equal to I1 dash plus I1 double dash. I2 is equal to I2 dash plus I2 double dash. So it may continue for more than two currents also. If you have a three meshes, three currents, then I1 is equal to I1 dash plus I1 double dash plus I1 triple dash. Three currents also it can be, not only two. Okay, any number of n number of. Okay. So these about the action plan you have to use in solving the problems. Okay. So there are some limitations also there with these theorems. It may not be applied to all the things. So superposition is a fundamental property of linear equations and therefore can be applied to any effect that is linearly related to the cause. Okay. It should have a linear relationship with the excitation. That is, we want to point out that superposition principle applies only to the current and voltage in a linear circuit, because current sources and voltage sources are linears, right? Okay, but it cannot be used to determine power, because power is a non-linear function. So you can only calculate voltage and current because they are linear with, okay, but power is not a linear one. It is V into I. Okay, it is a I square into R or V square by R. Okay, so this is about the limitation of superposition theorem. So this is the overall idea of superposition theorem. Okay, so in the next video we try to solve the problems based on this superposition theorem. Okay, thank you. We'll meet in the next video.